Revolution ignites with those words from Jovi Hernandez and the launch of PLDT and Smart's IoT platform. A world of possibilities is opening up to each and every one of us starting today, a world as limitless as our own imagination. And technology is fueling us on to the attainment of our personal goals and the success of our enterprise. Make sure your voices are heard by letting us know your thoughts and giving us your comments in the chat. It is my honor to bring you the first of this convention's exhilarating panel discussions right now. Technological advancements have come upon us at a speed that may have been propelled faster by the onset of the pandemic. For this panel, our global leaders assembled to bring you pivotal insights about these technological advancements and how they have been adopted by global companies, accelerating these companies' digital transformation and changing the way these businesses operate right now. The COVID-19 disruption highlighted the need to be continually prepared for change, to take calculated risks, and be ready to fail fast. Accelerating digital transformation has become today's revolutionary idea of business as usual, and the call to action for the world's business leaders is to stay ahead of the curve, to remain competitive for the next normal. With me now, our distinguished members of our Power Panel on Revolutionary Technology. Please welcome John Harrington, Senior Vice President, Head of Asia Pacific and Japan, Nokia. Nicholas Ma, President, Huawei Asia Pacific Enterprise Business Group. Manuel V. Pangilinan, Chairman, Metro Pacific Investments Corporation Group. Yasuo Suzuki, President, NTT Global Data Center. And Dave West, President, Cisco Asia Pacific, Japan, and Greater China. Good to have you all on board, gentlemen. Clearly, the need to innovate has accelerated enormously in this pandemic, and you all have shown leadership in keeping ahead of the curve despite the disruption. Suzuki-san, I wanted to talk about data centers for one, because they've really played one of the most critical roles in the pandemic, enabling remote working, the digital financial economy. So what did you do to keep ahead, to address the increased demand? Suzuki-san.
Actually, as you know, and COVID-19 brought an explosion in the demand for additional capacity. And actually, we expect this trend to continue as working from home, school, and everything from home, and becomes normal even when the pandemic ceases. So enterprise are re-evaluating overall disaster recovery plan as part of their response to the COVID-19 crisis. And other significant disasters such as hurricane and others, and typhoon and earthquake, and the new technologies such as artificial intelligence and advanced data analytics will continue to grow. Rising CPU power and server capacity. The enterprise data infrastructure deployment are accelerating, expanding, and starting to take on kind of like a junior hyperscale like a requirement for space, power, and connectivity. And what used to be normal enterprise requests for 200 to 500 kW environment are now requests for multi-megawatt, multi-site engagement. So enterprise migration out of on our premise data center into multi-tenant colocation facility is increasing, and the multi-tenant colocation facility have reached the point in cost effectiveness and efficiency that the idea of enterprise building their own data center doesn't make financial or operational sense.
John, you've got a pretty interesting start in the job. You assumed your role as Asia Pacific and Japan head of Nokia in January 2021, just as the pandemic hit. And that initially dampened 5G rollout plans in this part of the world. So what were your initial challenges and how did you address them, John?
Yeah, thank you. It's certainly been an interesting start to the job. I think at Nokia, we're a trusted partner for critical networks. And simply said, during the pandemic, network connectivity has become really critical, right? Critical for remote working, critical for online schooling, critical for telehealth. and basically to keep us all connected to family and loved ones. And I would say actually the rollout of 5G has not really been dampened by the pandemic. We've actually seen an increased demand for connectivity. We've seen global internet traffic, rise by 30 to 50%. What would normally have taken a year took only months. Nokia itself has something like 240 commercial agreements in 5G, 70 live networks, and in APJ alone, we have 20 customers now using Nokia 5G. We've seen the initial rollouts in Japan, Korea, Australia, and Singapore. And just in the last week, we've seen now Nokia with Indosat in Indonesia launching 5G. So things have certainly not slowed down. I think in terms of challenges, we've seen different types of traffic patterns. We've seen different types of traffic demands. There's no longer really a busy hour. People always want to be connected via their broadband connection, be that wireless or be it wireline. So we've really had to accelerate capacity into these networks and make sure they're robust because people rely on them more and more. And I think one of the biggest challenges is while many of us are working from home, we still have delivery organizations that have to keep the networks running, right? We have to anticipate that capacity. We have to deploy the right amount of infrastructure, and we have to do that in a more digital way. So digital workflows, process automation, faster delivery, better control, and try and digitize as much as possible while the physical world sort of recovers, and obviously trying to keep our team and our customers' teams as safe as possible. And then I think the other challenge to kind of top things off has been supply chain, right? They've been disrupted by the pandemic, and we've had to forecast much further into the future to make sure we've got the right products and the right solutions on time to meet this continued demand. So it's been quite a challenging start, but I think we're doing a pretty good job.
And accelerating that adoption of technology has really been important for organizations, especially those transitioning to hybrid work. Dave, could you tell us about some of the key technologies at Cisco that help both the employees and the vendors during the pandemic?
You bet. And it's great to see you, Manny, John, Nicholas, and Suzuki-san. It's great to be here. When we think about the pandemic, the one thing we've learned is that work is not a place you go, it's something that you do. And when you think about the type of work styles that have happened through the pandemic, one is virtual work, where everybody moved remote and had to work remotely, either from home or a remote location. And then the other aspect is as people return to office, the office had to transform a little bit as well. And there's three aspects of this. The first is security. Security is at the forefront of everything. And really one of those technology areas that really accelerated, especially cloud security, through this transition and what we've seen in the pandemic. As everybody had to work remotely, now privacy, data sovereignty issues, making sure that people were protected and intellectual property were protected, not at the office, but at home. So security was really at the forefront because the threat vector accelerated and expanded exponentially. Every branch office or every home office is now a branch office. Number two is collaboration. And as you know, we deliver WebEx to the market. We saw exponential growth in the use of our collaboration suite. And the reason is that people needed to interact either with coworkers, customers, had to go to school or talk to a physician. And so collaboration was at the forefront of exponential growth through the pandemic. And it wasn't just audio collaboration, it was video collaboration, where people wanted to create an environment that was very typical to what they would do physical, face-to-face in the office. And then the third piece is connectivity. And it's not just connecting people and having great bandwidth, it's about how do you ensure that user experience is optimized so that as you're delivering applications and services to users and customers, you need to make sure that not only the network can provide that, but the application experience and the user experience is optimal to be able to support the business and support all of those using the technology that's being provided to them.
Nicholas, what about you? You worked in the Philippines before and have been an old friend of PLDT. Based on your understanding of PLDT and business in the region, what do you think of the Philippine enterprise market?
At first, thanks to MVP and the PLDT for inviting me to join this session. I'm very happy to be able to come back to work for Philippine industry again. Philippines have a large population base, strong domestic demand, good long-term economic prospects, and a strong investment attractiveness. Philippine enterprise market is expanding very fast in recent years and still in developing stage of digitalization. 32% of the Philippine enterprises have digital transformation strategies. Many enterprises are thinking for the sustainable development with the help of the ICT technology, especially under current pandemic. In the last decade, PLDT have put a lot of the effort to develop to be business and achieved many good milestones in the market. As strategy partner of PLDT, we have been extending our strengths to support PLDT to success on 2C and 2H. And we are confident and sincere to extend all possible effort to support PLDT on 2B with our unique strengths.
So, Nicholas, what do you think Huawei as a partner can do to support PLDT's B2B business?
Okay, I want answer this one, talk about this one from two perspectives. The first one is our global and regional experience, and another one is innovative solutions. As we know, Huawei is a one to provide full series of the ICT solutions and products for all industries, and very keen to invest on the fundamental and innovative technologies with increasing R&D investment about 20 to 25 billion US dollar a year, which guarantee us to support our customer and partners with most competitive technology from long-term perspective. As of August 2021, 267 Fortune 500 companies have selected Huawei as their digital transformation partner. Our solutions have been deployed in more than 700 cities and are used by over 2,000 financial institutions and manufacturing enterprise, and more than 190 electric power companies worldwide. In Asia Pacific, we have been cultivating all the local markets about 15 to 20 years to collaborate with most of the industry. We had established relationship with over 7,900 partners in the enterprise market. Both of these two strengths can be used as a key point for PLDT to go to market and achieve more success.
So, what do you think, Manny? The innovative solutions. Huawei's been one of PLDT's longtime technology partners.
Well, Huawei has been a long time, as you said, Kathy, vendor to both our fixed line business and our wireless business. But I have to be even added here because Cisco as well is a supplier to us, and of course Nokia. In fact, our first wireless network was supplied by Nokia way back in 1993. And of course, since the time Nokia, while it was in the handset business, was a major supplier to Smart. No? So in respect of Huawei, we are, of course, satisfied with the level of service, the care and attention they give to us, both on the wireless side of our business and at the fixed side now of our business with the fiber to the home. And their pricing is very reasonable. And the relationship goes all the way to HQ in Shenzhen. No? We have visited their senior people a number of times before the pandemic, and we've developed a very personal relationship with the Huawei group. No? So despite the geopolitics of the situation, we tend to abstract from that and look at the merits of Huawei as a supplier, and we're happy with them.
Yeah, from what we've learned so far, there's really going to be a greater need to increase innovation for one and move away from the comfort of operating what we know as business as usual. What leadership philosophies do you draw from for guidance in a situation where the threat of losing one's relevance is happening at an accelerated pace?
Well, I think the theme of this conference refers to revolutionary developments, revolutionary leadership, no? And it's something that we have to take heed of because of the very rapidly shifting patterns of business, no? Occasioned by, on the one hand, technology, and the other hand by the pandemic. Uh, at the same time, on the shareholders front, the the persuasion being put on listed companies to adopt ESG, the environment, social work, and governance, is also changing the way we operate, the processes we adopt, no? And the way we report the results. No? We now have a separate annual report, which is the traditional report, but also a separate sustainability report, which is also almost as thick as our annual report. So, it's in many ways we have to adopt the revolutionary aspects of leadership, adopting abrupt changes as in certain areas that are really needed, but at the same time maintaining, the values that are important to our company, to PLDT, and the overall First Pacific Group here. No, so but as our friend from Cisco said, at the center of it all is the customer experience. In all of this, the mantra has always been the customer experience. What at the end of the day, all of this is being done to ensure, network processes transformation are being done to ensure that we are able to ratchet up our ability to raise the quality of customer experience. So,
Which leads us to the next 3 to 5 year horizon. Suzuki-san, when you look at the analytics, the projected growth in data centers around the globe, they vary. So what major technology trends and market trends are you seeing will drive growth in the data center industry?
Actually, as I told a moment ago, and new technologies such as artificial intelligence and advanced data analytics will continue to grow, and of course, rising CPU power and server capacity. And also, many enterprise client keep using cloud services. That's why cloud services next 3 to 5 years also significantly, I think, grow. And then in order to capture those requirement and demand, and NTT continue to research a new market and work closely with our clients to ensure that we are delivering capacity in the many existing as well as emerging market, such as Asia Pacific, including Philippines. And our goal is to be a leader in the key market where our clients are growing and partner with them to deliver. And also the key technology to drive growth for data center is we believe it's kind of like a technology for modular design. And actually, the one of the first and most important data center strategy now is that we are focusing on our modular design delivery system that we have implemented in the US and are expanding to market globally. So our modular design approach allows us to build our mechanical and electrical system in a centralized plant and deliver those units to the different data centers based on the demand and timing of our client needs. That's why next 3 to 5 years, with our unique technology, and I believe that we can capture those growing demand.
John, let's zoom in on Japan for a moment. A growth area also for Nokia in its expansion in the APAC. You've deployed Radical New Network for one of your challenging partners, Rakuten Mobile. Could you tell us how you're doing there, just leveraging technology that meet customer needs?
Yes, thank you, Kathy. Yeah, I was in Japan for 3 years personally between 2017 and 2020, and it's a wonderful country, and It's always been at the forefront of technology, and very nice to see Suzuki-san from NTT.
Thank you.
It's one of our largest markets in APJ, and I think we're doing quite well. We've been in the country for over 30 years, and our business continues to grow year over year. We're a major supplier to all 4 CSP customers, and we're also seeing a lot of excitement in the vertical industries in the private and local 5G area as well. So this is really exciting for us. And you mentioned Rakuten. Yeah, Rakuten was certainly doing new things at scale, and they've pushed a number of leading technologies such as digital workflows, Open RAN, a fully cloud-based core network architecture, software-defined networking, and really at the forefront of what we would call containerization and orchestration. So this has been a really exciting customer for us. We're also doing some things I would say that are really important in terms of sustainability. We've actually done recently a trial with KDDI on liquid-cooled base stations. If you can imagine the amount of heat and power that are required for base stations, we've actually been trialing some liquid cooling with KDDI that really helps to reduce the energy consumption and over those traditional systems. But I would say, in Japan and in general, 5G is much more than radio. So we're doing a lot of things with the traditional mobile service providers and also cable customers on high-speed IP routing, optical networking, G.fast and fixed wireless access in terms of next generation PON. And it's a market that really sets a trend. It sets a trend for many parts of the rest of Asia. So we're really excited by that. But if I look beyond the service providers, we're also now working directly with private industry networks, also with our service providers as partners. And we've deployed or planning to deploy something like 16 private wireless networks. And if you think of, well, how would those networks be used? I can give you some examples. First of all, we're working with Toyota Production Engineering, where we're looking at their manufacturing center and saying, how can we create an industrial private wireless network that will help them in their tooling, their processes, in the vehicle manufacturing, and really automate a lot of that operating environment. So that's really exciting when we think about the applications, the services, and the workflows. A second example would be in Sendai, where unfortunately, in 2011, there was the earthquake, but we've actually installed, along with the local government, a public safety and emergency response system that's equipping drones. Can you imagine drones flying on a private network to really help with HD thermal cameras, speakers, alert systems to patrol along the coast and provide the support for evacuations and public safety. Another example would be working with Hitachi Kokusai Electric to bring local 5G to enterprise and government customers. And then I would say, we're also working with SoftBank, for example, in working in the Honda research and development side, where we're looking at how can we help to operate and deploy autonomous vehicles? How can we control that over a 5G network? And we're not doing it alone, of course. We're doing it with several partners such as Nippon Steel, Omron, Sharp, and how do we take the 5G-based benefits of low latency and ultra mobile broadband to bring these types of applications to commercial service? So a really exciting market for us, and yeah, I think business is very strong there for Nokia.
Indeed, really exciting. It just sounds like it, basically trying things that haven't been done at scale before. Dave, could you share a bit about Cisco's experience with your own workforce and your transition to the hybrid work model?
I absolutely can. I mean, as you know, Cisco provides a lot of enterprise technology and solutions, from collaboration to security to infrastructure to applications to all of those services, both SaaS and on-prem services. It was quite easy for us to go to hybrid work. Our culture is around flexible work practices. So everybody sort of had WebEx on their desktop, had Duo for multi-factor authentication, SD-WAN was deployed. So we had the type of rich services, and a lot of the providers that are on this call also delivered those rich services with us as well to help all of those go into hybrid work. I think technology wasn't the big challenge for us in hybrid work. It was the shift in how people had to work. And I think we realized pretty quickly that our employees, even though they had all this fantastic technology and innovation sitting on their desktop, they were employee, they were teacher, they were caregiver, they were partner at home. And so everybody is dealing with very complex work-life balance environments. So the issue wasn't, technology in terms of providing the tools for our employees through the pandemic. It was really about, how we changed our model about understanding what was going on in our employees' lives. First and foremost, how we responded to that in terms of, changing the way and maybe our empathy as a company towards our employees and to understand, and then to really provide them an environment where they could, do their best to balance between work and life. And so in the early days, you would get embarrassed when, your children would walk on a conference call or, somebody would interrupt you during a meeting. And, through the pandemic, people became much more comfortable, much more understanding, much more empathetic. And so, we delivered technology to tens of thousands of customers across Asia Pacific. But the greatest learning for us was about people and to understand and to empathize with our employees, our customers that are dealing with very complicated work-life balance environments. And for many on this call, you probably still are dealing with that day in and day out. And so, enabling technology to support and help you in balancing all of those things that are going on in life.
So, as a follow up, technology influencing culture, because that's really a compelling idea. How do you ensure that every innovation that you get into considers culture?
For us, is when we think about culture in terms of our technology, it's as we deploy technology to our customers, our partners, is making sure that we understand that the technology has to some way complement what a physical environment needs to look at and look like. So in fact, when we think about our WebEx suite, our goal going into the pandemic was to make WebEx 10 times a better experience potentially than being together in person. And so how do you do that? You do real-time translation services. So if your customer is Japanese, we can translate that into English. If we want to capture notes and understand what's going on and put those notes together so we can go back through the meeting later, be able to do that. If we want to do questions and get a feel for how people are feeling, then you can put a thumbs up or do a clap, and automatically WebEx will notice that. If you're in an office and you can only have 2 people in an office because of social distancing measures and you're talking to others, the tool will tell you when the third person walks into the office that you violated social distancing. So AI implemented with rich technology and innovation to make sure that that we understand and we leverage technology to help in sort of that cultural divide and the things that we need to do. The other thing I would say is, in regards to culture, we were very, very sensitive to understanding exactly the type of technologies and tools that our customers and partners really wanted from us to help them create either their work environments or their home environments. So it's at the forefront of everything we were thinking about as we work through the pandemic and are still working through the pandemic.
Nicholas, what about for Huawei? Your focus in strengthening efforts and solutions that are grounded on 5G, AI, and the cloud, among others. Why is IoT important for enterprises today?
I want to share two viewpoints on this. The number one is most industry are being reshaped by new digital technology, and it's not only help business maintain and increase productivities, but also unlock new market opportunities. Number two, in coming decade, enterprise with well-developed ICT infrastructure are better positioned to improve their competitiveness in the market. From 2020 to 2021 are difficult years for everyone. The pandemic is still serious in many areas. Worldwide digitalization is picking up pace and expanding into more industries. Today, even traditional industries such as manufacturing, education, healthcare, finance, transport, and energy are also adopting 5G, AI, cloud, IoT, and other new technologies, as well as developing new business models. According to the data from IDC, by 2022, 70% of organizations will be using digital technology to change their business processes and improve the customer experience, productivities, and resilience to foster the sustainable development. I want to take two examples. The first one is during the epidemic, Huawei Cloud cooperated with partners to provide online courses services to 25,000 schools and 17 million teachers and students in Guangdong, China. The technology are accelerating the fundamental education even in the pandemic. Second one is many workplaces have shifted to the contactless operations, leveraging the automation technology in factories and unmanned vehicle logistic services in business parks. In the background of the canceling provincial toll gates on highway in China, Huawei provided an integrated smart site solution that support free flow toll collection on highway, including the terminals such as integrated smart sites on ETC ports, high-speed transmission network, cloud platforms, big data platforms, O&M management, and security assurance services, making the toll collection from the manual to automatic efficiently improves the running efficiency of the expressway. And I believe that the technological innovation will be the main driving force for industry development over the next 10 years.
So it's really very clear that accelerated and accelerating digital transformation journeys are here with us to stay. And putting this as a constant top priority improves productivity, keeping us competitive, also focus on the customer's shifting needs. So Manny, what to you is the path of digitalization for a legacy company that's now evolving to enable customers' digital lifestyles?
Well, I think given the circumstances nowadays, it has become an imperative for companies outside of telco. As you know, we're invested in power companies, in tollways, in water, hospitals, and the like. And in the old days, the value of a company has been created mainly by the traditional metrics, no? Profits, cash flows, and the like. Nowadays, I think the imperatives, in addition to the very basic metrics by which you're measured, sustainability is one, and the other is digitalization, your ability to adopt technology. So it has no longer become a luxury; it's an imperative. No? For example, in the case of our tollways, I think Nicholas alluded to it in terms of their experience in China. They have started to adopt the digital pattern of doing their business, partly because they were driven into it when the government required that all tollways operators, and we're the largest in the Philippines, must use RFIDs. So in the process of shifting from cash basis to RFIDs, we managed to obtain data from more than 2 million motorists who drive through our tollways here in the Philippines and elsewhere in other parts of Asia where we have tollways. So we're able to generate the data on motorists, and therefore we are able to know the pattern of their journey as they drive through our tollways. And the holy grail for us, right now we still have the barriers, and the holy grail for us to be able to remove the barriers because we're able to track from the time they enter a toll booth all the way to their exit point. No, we should be able to do that. The consequence of that is you spoke about culture. We have prior to RFIDs, we've had more than 3,000 toll booth attendants, and now we're down to about 10% of that. So the cost savings generated tangibly by digitalization is there, no, very very important to us. And now they're looking at other ways to be able to adopt digital technology, like parking. If you're driving through the city and you need to go to Makati, then there are ways now, apps that enable you to find available parking spaces. No? And the same is true for our hospitals. I think Cisco alluded to it earlier. Our ability to because heretofore hospitals have been hemmed in by the requirement of space, particularly with the pandemic. Now, I think with telehealth, we have the ability to deliver health services digitally or in a mobile way to our patients. No, so that has helped a lot. And you spoke about culture earlier, Kathy. We have to persuade the senior management, the first instance, that it's important they adopt this digital technology because you will be obsoleted if you don't do that. And values are now driven by your ability to do your digital pivot, right? Especially if you're a publicly listed company. So that's a key imperative for our group across the board. I know PLDT and Smart are probably in the forefront because of our panelists here. They're introducing ever so often innovative ways to do things, but it cuts across all companies apart from telcos.
Yeah, it cuts across and also brings together all the different alliances and partnerships as we're all represented in this panel, just creating that value towards a connected future. And it can only be done through those alliances, creating that global ecosystem and enhancing customer experience. Very important, Suzuki-san, because NTT has just expanded its data center footprint by 20%. So could you tell us more about the intensifying data center race in APAC, and how is NTT seeking that financial efficiency with potential investors?
Actually, NTT has historically self-funded approximately more than $2 billion US in data center expansions every year. Since we are also able to borrow the funds at excellent rate because we are part of the larger NTT family. And however, we have been seeking third-party investors to acquire interest in certain of our data center assets and to co-finance future development projects in order to improve capital efficiency and reduce its balance sheet exposure. So with that, and we are able to build in the market at a speed and cost all over the world that many of our competitors are unable to match. So we also continue to explore all available avenues to grow our data center footprint, including raising debt and working with new financial partners.
Well, you've got a full stack of ICT services, and your growth driver right now is India. It's the highest growing market for NTT. And when you look at the emerging markets, it's really Indonesia, the focus area for hyperscalers when you speak about the newcomers. So what is the value that you create with for both enterprise and hyperscale clients?
Actually, as you told, and our number one growth market is currently India. And of course, Indonesia would be the potential market to grow more. And actually, in those markets, through our tailored local expertise, our worldwide connected platform, and NTT's portfolio of global technology solutions, we are an enabler of growth and innovation for our clients, wherever they are in the world, including, of course, India and Indonesia. And our client can work with one data center such as us for all their business and digital transformation needs globally. The location where they need to be will be more than 160 countries, data centers across 20 countries regions, and aggressive expansion plan to ensure future coverage for us. Plan to invest over more than $7 billion in next 4 years. And full stack data center and hybrid IT solution, which will be provided globally through NTT subsidiaries and brother companies. And robust global IP, we are proud of our robust global IP network backbone, and for customer to utilize a high-speed network. And of course, a local expert team that makes it easy with superior customer services.
John, I know that you made a mention of Japan as that industrial nation where Nokia is created in the software it deploys, but give us that experience for emerging markets. I mean, in an industrial nation like Japan, in Tokyo, you mentioned there's been a focus on fourth industrial revolution technologies to improve energy and environmental sustainability. But what about in emerging markets like Thailand? Because they've really been big on 5G-enabled telehealth facilities.
Yeah, I think that the 5G is really an enabler for this transition to the fourth industrial revolution. I actually think that COVID has really simply accelerated the need for this transition. We've been working with CSPs in the advanced and also the developing markets, and we see a lot of economic sectors that are really starting to embrace 4G, 5G networking and the use of industrial applications. I think we see a lot of legacy physical or industrial networks that are used to moving physical goods, and they have some, quite frankly, some antiquated systems that they need to become more automated. That's really come to the fore with COVID, and that they need to incorporate more artificial intelligence and more machine learning to ultimately increase productivity. And we see this kind of integration of what we would call operational technology, which is in a lot of these industrial segments, and the use of information technology or quite frankly, software. So we're working with over 260 companies worldwide across multiple industries to say, how can the next generation of technology really help with productivity? And we see, we think the new revenue will come from several vertical enterprises and industries, from segments such as transport, think of ports, think of rail, think of autonomous vehicles. From manufacturing, we see a lot of interest in mining, oil and gas, also in health and education. So there's a strong desire from these segments to be more productive. Now, in the advanced networks, before I get to the emerging networks, in the advanced networks, we see there's a clear strategy to become more digital. And we see this decentralization of advanced architectures, the use of edge clouds to really make use of the lower latency in 5G. But to kind of answer your question, so what does this mean? What is the value that's created? I think it's really the agility, the lower operating costs, more customer satisfaction, really being able to deploy more personalized services in terms of network slices and within specific industries or even consumer bundles. So I think the service providers are trying to find new sources of revenue, and the industrials are really trying to get more productivity, increase GDP. With Nokia and PLDT, we've been working together to standardize the telco virtualization environment, the NFVI environment, to look at digital operations, cloud software, to make PLDT more agile, drive cost savings, and to really increase customer satisfaction. So that's really in the advanced networks and advanced markets. In the emerging markets, healthcare is an interesting one. I think even before COVID-19, there was a desire to make digital healthcare and the delivery of real-time care, doable. So why sit in a doctor's waiting room when the healthcare provider can come to you, albeit virtually? So we've seen a lot of AI, mobility, smart devices, remote monitoring devices to help with patient-centric care. And we have a technology that we use called Scene Analytics. And that's actually helps us understand, can we look at and identify people that may have elevated temperatures, maybe not wearing their masks? How can we do this in a wide area, open environment? So we actually see a wide range of industries. I don't think it's just limited to healthcare, but certainly, that's one of the key segments that we see.
Well, let me pick up on cloud and ask Dave about the perspective of organizations, because the pandemic's really sped up the shift toward the cloud. What kinds of innovation could be added progressively as organizations move forward on their transition to the cloud?
Well, I mean, I think what we've seen is that organizations have moved in many cases to the cloud, and there's many that can't move to the cloud. Either they never built cloud native applications or they're not ready for cloud consumption type of services. So it really is a world today of hybrid clouds where you're going to have private clouds and public clouds. And one of the innovations we've seen is capabilities like SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, where you need to provide policy consistently, regardless if you're accessing a private cloud or a public cloud. You need an access control mechanism. You need secure connectivity to your private cloud and your public cloud. So we've seen almost all major enterprise customers and commercial customers really race towards a next generation access model for security so that they can have a consistent policy model regardless of where they're running their workloads, on-prem, private cloud, public cloud. You need to provide consistent policy and security across all of those. The other thing that we've seen a massive acceleration around is observability, true full stack observability. And so, applications have become fundamental to the business. And so you need to understand how applications are performing. As Manny said, what is the user experience and what is customer experience in an app? And now you're delivering an app to a mobile device. Your customers are remote. And so you need full visibility of how you're deploying applications and services, either from a private cloud, on-prem, or the public cloud. The other thing that we are seeing is that all of our customers are looking at visibility. So they know they're delivering a service, and we know the customer is delivering the service, but they have no idea really what the performance is, the performance across their network, if there's issues, if there's congestion, if there's latency. And so how do you optimize the experience unless you have visibility? So it's application visibility, it's workload visibility, and it's network performance visibility. So we've seen full stack observability, which I think in Asia Pacific is roughly going to be a $25 billion opportunity. I think 40 cents of every dollar spent on the cloud today is spent on observability. So we've seen this major move towards gaining visibility and an understanding of what the experience really is for customers that they're delivering applications, private, public cloud, on-prem, all the way down to user.
Before we go, gentlemen, just a last round for everybody. And I wanted to start with Suzuki-san. Your takeaways in embracing revolutionary technology as a means to thrive and serve the shifting needs of customers, knowing that NTT Global is one of the biggest in the world when it comes to data center technology.
Yeah, actually, NTT understands and embraces the digital transformation fueled by cloud computing, AI, and others, IoT, 5G. And as part of our data center team, we are constantly looking for a way to develop faster, more efficient data center, and while always maintaining an eye toward sustainability. And combined with NTT's long history of world-class networking products and services, and I believe we are well positioned to lead now and in the future. Within NTT, we also have a venture capital division that is solely focused on the developing and funding the new disruptive technology solutions, either at an early stage startup or an established entity. And this is incredibly exciting as we can serve client needs today and still develop a new idea for the future. And as part of this development and research, NTT has committed 3.6 billion US dollars in funding to develop a new solution and drive our R&D across a host of new technologies, all supported by 2,500 research engineers, 16,000 partners, and inventions such as mobile phone technology.
What about you, John? With so many exciting things happening, the applications that are yet to come because of 4IR, what do you think is revolutionary leadership?
Well, I think I've mentioned before that Nokia really creates the technology that helps the world act together. And I think now more than ever, we need to act together. I think we need to rely on these critical networks. And so I think there's a general acknowledgement that there is a network and it has to be secure, it has to be trusted. And I think when we think about 5G, it's much more than just a faster experience for consumers. I think it's about bringing digitization, productivity, and growth to many of these industrial sectors that were suffering from low growth even before the pandemic. And I think we're just at the start. We think of 3G, 4G, 5G. I think 5G is really a 5G era, right? It's a decade. We're really just at the start. I think Nokia is off to a great start in terms of leadership with over 240 commercial 5G agreements. But it's much more than just a faster user experience, a faster radio connection. I think we're going to see the modernization of networks in terms of IP routing, optical networking, fiber everywhere. And I think this type of capacity will really help in many other socially focused sectors. I could talk about education, right? That's really been clearly a need in the last 12 months where we've had our children have online schooling. And at the same time, there are many parts of the world where people don't have access to broadband. And so, we need to give them this broadband connectivity. So, there's extremes. We can think about online learning and immersive and VR type of technology for pupils, but quite frankly, we also need to get that affordable internet and broadband connectivity out to the underserved and kind of bridge the digital divide. So I'm really excited about the future. I think 5G has a big part to play in it, and I think we're just at the start.
Dave, what about yourself? Revolutionary leadership for Cisco.
For us, Cisco's purpose is about creating an inclusive future for everybody. And so building technology that allows people to be included, no matter who they are, where they are, or how they work. If they go to the office or they're working from home, that our technology is built in a way that enables people to feel included and is really core to our cultural beliefs as a company. So as we think about next generation technology, it is providing connectivity to the unconnected. It is accomplishing the things that Manny talked about in regard to ESG. What we need to do environmentally to create sustainable products that allow for net zero emissions. Two is how we create technology and innovation that allows for enabling countries that are unconnected, either learning, healthcare, and providing environmental capabilities that allow people to use technologies to create a better place for us and our children in this world right now. And then last is, how we use technologies to do the right things around governance and provide the capabilities to allow our customers to innovate in regards to their business.
Nicholas, what about for Huawei? How are we going to see revolutionary leadership going forward?
I think for us, the technology always the working for the people and for the organization. So with the revolutionary technology, I think we hope our customer and the people can live a simple, personalized, and a secure life with ICT technology. Actually, companies of all industries have invested heavily in tools and technology that help them to understand their customer and the person more deeply, such as AI assisted self-help options, as a way to achieve significant productivity improvement and better customer experience. Meanwhile, as time goes on, network will become self-organizing, self-healing, self-optimizing, and autonomous, bringing intelligent connectivity within reach for enterprise and the people to provide much more simple and secure service to the persons and the organizations.
And Manny, to wrap, revolutionary leadership when it comes to superior customer experience.
Well, Kathy, I think it's a given already in these times, no? Because what our vendors have said is their technologies that they're developing are really revolutionary in many respects. So you have to adapt those, and it's probably just a question of the pace at which you drive the change internally and externally as well. So that is driven by, in some respects, a change in your mindset, the mindset of your senior management, whose job it is to filter it down to the lowest level of your employee core. And number two is government. For example, our water concession business and our power distribution business are regulated, and they're right now we in order to be able to bill properly, we deploy millions of meters all over our franchise areas, and they're dumb meters. So in the course of lockdowns, in the past anyway, in 2020 particularly, we couldn't read the meters. So the consequent effect of that is that we couldn't bill and we couldn't collect. So the receivables of both the water and the power concessions ballooned because we simply couldn't bill. Now, of course, the government has allowed our meter readers to go out this year, but I mean that's an area where we have to adopt, deploy smart meters, because at the end of the day, it's very human heavy in terms of our ability to read and properly monitor the analytics of consumption of water and power. And the power industry itself, to Dave's point earlier, is in the midst of a practical revolution in terms of environmental change. We have coal plants, and they have to switch to gas as a transition fuel, and eventually to renewables in the next 30 or 40 years. Now that's painful, and the question is who's going to pay for the transition? But we know we have to do it. Same with Manila, the water, right? They have to adopt these smart meters and be more thorough in terms of knowing their customers. They're not doing that yet. So we're seeing revolution happening, as I said, across the board for our businesses. So it's our job really to be able to encourage, if not push them into that space. No? And the enterprise group, you asked Nicholas earlier, the enterprise group should provide the solutions to these companies in their pivotal switch. And of course, the Huawei's of the world, the Cisco's of the world, Nokia's and the Ericsson's of the world are part and parcel of that solution that we will adopt. Let me go to my last point. We had the executive committee of this afternoon, of the Philippine Business for Social Progress, which is really a umbrella group of the major corporations of the Philippines and the largest NGO, or the largest social organization here in this country. It's been around for 50 years. And when the executive director of the foundation presented their plans for 2022, and he was complaining about their inability to gather the data and store the data. I think to Dave's point and to Mr. Suzuki's point, the cloud, right? And they need somebody to tell them what to do, right? So it's even the social program space that is needed, because they do a lot of social work. They receive a lot of donations from USAID, Australian aid, and private equity funds from Europe that specialize in particular areas here in the Philippines. So yeah, it's if you don't adopt, if you don't change, yeah, you'll go the way of dinosaurs.
Well, we're in the good company of partners and vendors who are managing to get us to revolutionary leadership, if you will, Manny. Thank you so much. And to everybody here on this panel for your insights. Clearly, accelerating digital transformations become today's idea of business as usual. And the call to action for the world's business leaders is really to stay ahead of the curve, to remain competitive for the next normal. So thank you so much, gentlemen. Well, join us for the next Power Panel, this time with the Philippines' leading business leaders tomorrow to talk about how they thrived in the pandemic and what they're doing to ensure they remain atop their game. I'm Kathy Yang. A safe and pleasant day to all attending the Digicon.